He was writing in his own blood. 4 words carved into stone. They made us disappear. Except they didn't just disappear. They were buried. 30 men. 30 blue-banded barrels. 65 years of silence broken by a demolition crew who thought they'd struck an old septic tank. Before we go deeper, hit that like button and subscribe if stories like this pull you in. Drop a comment. Tell us where you're watching from. It's incredible seeing how far these stories reach. The sweat on Elias Vance's lip is the first honest thing he's given Detective Kalen Paxton all afternoon. It's 2004. The interrogation room smells like burnt coffee and fear. Kalen's been dismantling this alibi for 2 hours. He's close. The confession's hovering in the stagnant air, waiting to be seized. "Let's talk about the jacket," Kalen says, leaning forward. "The red and black North Face. Same one we found stuffed in your closet." Vance flinches. His eyes dart toward the one-way mirror. "That ain't mine." "And the witness? The elderly woman with the poodle? She recognized your face." The facade crumbles. Vance opens his mouth, the truth trembling on his lips. The door clicks open behind Kalen, Captain Daria Wallace. She doesn't interrupt unless the city's sinking. "Detective Paxton, a word, now." Kalen feels his jaw tighten. "Captain, I'm right on the verge. Now, Detective." He gives Vance one final look. Don't even breathe. In the hallway, Wallace is already moving. "You're being pulled. Reassigned immediately." "What?" "Queens. Old parking garage off Northern Boulevard. Demolition crew struck something under the foundation." She stops, turns. "They're not sure what, but it's significant, and it's homicide's jurisdiction." Here's where it gets strange. The garage is a concrete monolith, decades of grime, yellow police tape. Kalen descends the ramp and the air grows colder. Smells like pulverized concrete and something older, damper. The smell of unearthed soil. The foreman's face is pale beneath white dust. "We were breaking up the foundation. The concrete was way thicker than the blueprint said. Then the hammer hit metal, screeched like hell." Kalen approaches the edge of the pit, and there they are, 55-gallon industrial barrels, heavily corroded. Each one bears a distinctive faded blue band around its middle, some still half buried at awkward angles, others already pulled out. "We figured industrial waste," the foreman continues, voice shaking. "That one," he points. "The rust had eaten through. When we lifted it, it cracked open." Kalen walks toward it. The smell intensifies. Not just rust, something sickly sweet. The unmistakable odor of decay. He crouches. The metal's brittle, flaking under his gloved touch. Inside, compacted in dark mud, it's hard to make out details. Then the floodlight shifts. A glint of dull white. The unmistakable curved shape of a human skull. Empty eye socket staring back. A silent scream from a makeshift grave, but I haven't told you the worst part yet. "Shut it all down," Kalen orders. "This is a homicide scene. Get the ME's office. Tell them to send everyone." By dawn, they've counted them. 30 barrels. 30 souls. A mass grave hidden beneath unsuspecting New Yorkers for decades. Dr. Lena Hansen pulls down her mask, exhausted. The remains are old, Kalen. Decades. Based on decomposition and materials, we're looking at 50 to 70 years. 50 to 70 years. This isn't recent. This is history reaching out from the grave. Kalen turns to the building permits. The parking garage foundation was poured in October 1939, the tail end of the Great Depression, a time when people could disappear easily. Days pass. The barrels are transported, examined. Kalen waits for the first name. He doesn't know why, but this feels different, personal, as if the ghosts are calling directly to him. Late Friday afternoon, the call comes. Lena Hansen. "We have a hit. Barrel B12. Extensive dental work. Very distinctive. Cross-referenced with state archives. Kalen grabs a pen. Who is it? Male, late 30s. Name is Silas Griffin. Disappeared September 1939. Kalen searches the database. The results load instantly, but it's not a single report. It's a cluster. Silas Griffin was one of 30 construction workers who vanished simultaneously from a remote lodge construction site deep in the Adirondack Mountains. 30 men, 30 barrels. Lena, Kalen whispers, I think we just found the lost crew of the Adirondacks. This is where it gets dark. Kalen opens the full case file, scans the list of names, and then he sees it. Bernard Paxton. He freezes. The blood drains from his face. The room tilts. Bernard Paxton was his grandfather, the man whose disappearance broke his grandmother's heart, haunted his father's entire life. The family tragedy whispered at reunions, and Kalen just found him buried in a barrel beneath a parking garage in Queens. He's no longer investigating a cold case. He's investigating his own grandfather's murder. The notification is the longest drive of Kalen's career. The Griffin family home in Brooklyn. Modest, well-kept. A porch swing moves gently in the breeze. Vaughn Griffin opens the door. Late 40s, tired face, eyes holding weary suspicion. Can I help you? Mr. Griffin, I'm Detective Kalen Paxton, NYPD. I'm here about your grandfather, Silas Griffin. Vaughn's eyes widen. Raw vulnerability replacing suspicion. You found something? Inside, an elderly man sits in a recliner. Otis Griffin, son of the man who disappeared. He's lived his entire life under this shadow. Mr. Griffin, Kalen says carefully, a few days ago we discovered remains. We've identified one as your father, Silas Griffin. Silence, profound and heavy. Otis stares at Kalen, eyes filling with tears. A lifetime of uncertainty collapsed into a single moment of painful clarity. Vaughn paces, hands clenched. Found him? Where? After 65 years? Buried under a parking garage, along with the others, the entire crew. Murdered? Vaughn's voice cracks. They were murdered and disposed of like trash? Yes, we believe they were murdered. Otis finally speaks, voice trembling. I always knew he didn't just leave us. He was a good man. Who did this? Vaughn demands. And why did the investigation fail so completely? Kalen pauses, needs them to understand. There's something else you should know. My grandfather, Bernard Paxton, was also part of that crew. He was found with your father. The revelation hangs in the air. Vaughn's anger dissipates, replaced by understanding. Shared trauma, forging an immediate bond. Otis motions to a side table. Vaughn, bring me the box. Inside, artifacts of a life interrupted. Worn leather wallet, pocket knife, faded letters, and a photograph. 30 men posing at a construction site, standing under exposed steel skeleton, all dressed in work overalls, weathered faces, stern expressions. Not a single man smiling. They look tired, etched with hard work. That's them, Otis says, pointing. That's my father. Kalen studies Silas Griffin's face, then searches the others. He finds Bernard Paxton in the second row, standing tall, arms crossed. It's the first time Kalen's seen this photograph of his grandfather, and here's the detail that changes everything. Kalen pins a copy above his desk, the stern faces serving as constant demand for justice. The identifications proceed. The barrels hold the entire Adirondack crew. Bernard Paxton officially identified 3 days later. Now Kalen turns to the past. He requests complete case files from Albany. They arrive in battered boxes smelling of dust and decay. He spends days immersed in 1939 reconstructing events through brittle yellowed pages. The original investigation was superficial at best, bordering on negligent. The construction project was overseen by Adirondack Summit Development, powerful company, Significant political influence. When workers vanished, they deflected blame to a subcontractor, Mountain View laborers. The subcontractor conveniently went bankrupt immediately, records vanishing along with the men. The prevailing theories were absurd. Accidental death, 30 men falling into a mine shaft simultaneously. Mass desertion, 30 men abandoning jobs and families without trace. It reads like calculated cover-up. But buried in the files, Kalin finds handwritten notes. Original lead detective Thomas Alley, cryptic, fragmented, hinting at a different story. ASD owners stonewalling, Alley scrawled, refusing access to site, witnesses intimidated. Then Kalin finds a note that sends chills down his spine. Suspected organized activity, rumors of forced labor at camp, need to investigate connection to. The note ends there. Ink faded. Rest of sentence lost to time. Organized activity. Forced labor. This is the first hint of motive. Why 30? Men would be silenced so brutally. Wait. It gets worse. Kalin focuses on physical evidence, the barrels. He needs to trace their origin. Specialists examine them. Metallurgists, paint analysts. They analyze metal composition, chemical signature of the blue paint, manufacturing marks. The barrels were manufactured late 1930s by Erie Steel Containers. Kalin tracks down a retired employee, man in his 90s. He remembers the blue banded barrels. Custom order. He directs them to original sales ledgers. Kalin scans the digitized entries and finds it. Order placed August 1939, just weeks before the disappearance. Large order of 55-gallon barrels. Distinctive blue band. The purchaser, Tri-State Hauling. Kalin cross-references, recognizes it instantly. Tri-State Hauling was primary transport service for Adirondack Summit development. The connection is chilling. The killers used their own transport company to dispose of bodies, murdered the workers, packed them in barrels, transported them from Adirondacks to Queens. Seamless, self-contained operation minimizing exposure risk. But here's what still gives me chills. Kalin searches for Tri-State Hauling in modern databases, expecting a dead end. The company still exists, rebranded decades ago, now called TSH Logistics. Large, successful logistics company, hubs across the eastern seaboard. The company that transported murdered workers is still operating, still active, thriving, hidden in plain sight. Kalin traces ownership structure, complex web of holding companies. He reaches the apex. TSH Logistics is wholly owned by the Mercer Group. The name resonates with chilling familiarity. The Mercer Group owned Adirondack Summit Development in 1939. They orchestrated the mass murder, the cover-up. The pieces click into place. Vertically integrated criminal enterprise. They controlled everything. The construction company employing workers, the transport company moving bodies, and records confirm they owned the parking garage site in Queens. They murdered workers and buried them in the foundation of their own construction site. The organization that murdered his grandfather isn't just historical, it's living, breathing, more powerful than ever. This part still gives me chills. Kalin compiles findings, presents evidence to Captain Wallace, requests authorization for deeper investigation into Roman Mercer and TSH Logistics, but he encounters a wall. Kalin, Wallace says, leaning back, tension palpable. You're making a big leap. Connecting historical crime to contemporary corporation based on rusty barrels and a 65-year-old sales ledger. It's not just the barrels, Kalin argues. It's the ownership structure. The Mercer family controls everything. Motive? Wallace challenges. Why kill 30 of their own workers? Alley's notebook mentioned organized activity, forced labor. They were doing something illegal, something the workers witnessed. Speculation. We need proof. How am I supposed to get proof if you won't let me investigate? Wallace stands. You need to understand who you're dealing with. The Mercer Group has immense political influence, deep connections within this department. We need an airtight case before we make a move. If we go after them prematurely, they will crush us. She orders him to focus on historical aspects. Until then, the Mercer Group is off limits. Kalen leaves, cold dread settling in his stomach. He recognizes the same obstruction that silenced Detective Alley 65 years ago. The corruption is still alive. Nobody saw this coming. Kalen retreats to his office. Pinned photograph, the workers staring back. They were honest men trying to make a living during the Depression. What could they have witnessed worth killing for? He revisits Ali's notebook. Organized activity, forced labor, historical context of the Great Depression, desperation, exploitation, shadow economies. Then realization hits. Sickening wave of understanding, human trafficking, it fits, remote location deep in wilderness, perfect waypoint for moving people discreetly, transport company providing logistics, marginalized workforce easily exploited and silenced. The Mercer organization used Depression chaos to build their empire. Trafficking people, likely women, for forced labor or prostitution. Used construction project as cover. Remote site as base of operations. The motive solidifies. Workers witnessed the trafficking, saw victims, the brutality, the organization's darkest secret. Some might have tried to report it. And the Mercer organization silenced them, all of them, to protect their growing empire. They killed 30 men without hesitation, human life worthless compared to profits. The brutality suddenly makes sense. Not just silencing witnesses, sending a message. But here's what Kalen realizes with terrifying clarity. If the organization was willing to commit mass murder to protect their operation, if they were profitable and protected, it's unlikely they simply stopped. The trafficking operation might still be active. The historical investigation just became an active conspiracy. While Kalen wrestles with department inertia, Vaughn Griffin drowns in frustration. Every passing day feels like betrayal of his grandfather's memory. Paxton is constrained by the badge, but Vaughn feels no such limitations. He begins his own surveillance. TSH Logistics Distribution Hub, industrial area near waterfront, sprawling complex, fortress, surrounded by high fence topped with barbed wire. He spends several nights parked across the street, hidden in shadows of abandoned warehouse, watching, documenting, looking for anything unusual. Late one night, the atmosphere shifts. Security presence increases significantly. Guards patrol perimeter, movement sharp, alert. Usual hustle slows, focus shifting to secluded internal loading bay. Vaughn's instincts scream. This is it. He grabs his camera, gets out, keeps to shadows, moves closer to perimeter fence, finds vantage point behind stacked pallets, focuses on loading bay, unmarked truck backed into bay. Van arrives, doors open. Then he sees them. Several people quickly, forcefully, moved from van into truck, huddled together, movements constrained, faces obscured. But Vaughn sees their fear, their desperation. They're not employees, they're prisoners. The trafficking operation never stopped, just evolved. The Mercer organization's still in business. He needs proof, needs to get closer, record the activity, capture faces, but he's spotted. Security guard sees camera lens glint. Hey, you, stop! Vaughn runs, adrenaline surging, scrambles toward his car, hears shouting behind him. Car with TSH markings bursts from gate, heading straight for him. He ducks into alley, scrambles over fence, tearing jacket, cutting hands, keeps running. Fear mixing with desperate determination. He knows if they catch him, he'll disappear. Just like his grandfather, he manages to escape, melting into darkness. Vaughn shows up at Kalen's apartment late that night, eyes wild, hands trembling, cuts still bleeding. frantically recounts events at TSH Hub, secluded loading bay. People forced into truck, harrowing chase. Kalen listens, cold dread spreading. Vaughn's testimony confirms his darkest fears. This is no longer a cold case. It's an active conspiracy. Vaughn, what the hell were you thinking? Kalen explodes. You could have been killed. They're trafficking people right now, Vaughn shoots back. While we're waiting for warrants, we will act, but we have to do it the right way. The right way got 30 men killed in 1939. The right way allowed the Mercer Group to operate with impunity for 65 years. I know that, Kalen shouts, but we have to be smart. He looks at Vaughn, sees raw desperation. This organization is lethal. They will not hesitate to eliminate threats. You need to stay out of this. Next morning, Kalen walks to his car, mind focused on confrontation with Wallace, reaches his car parked on Quiet Street, and then he sees it. Windshield smashed, spiderweb of cracks radiating from central impact, glass glittering on pavement. He approaches cautiously, looks inside. On dashboard, amidst shattered glass, sits an object, old tarnished work cap, flat cap made of wool, faded and worn, identical to those worn by men in 1939 photograph. Kalen freezes, blood drains from his face. It's not random vandalism, it's a message, a warning. The Mercer organization knows who he is, what he's investigating, his connection to the murders. The message is clear: back off or you're next. Buried, forgotten, erased. The threat is visceral, terrifying. It shatters his sense of security. He's not just investigating a criminal organization. He's at war with them. The threat galvanizes Kalen's resolve. He's no longer just seeking justice for the past. He's fighting to stop an ongoing atrocity. He storms into Wallace's office, slams work cap on her desk. They know. They threatened me at my home. He presents Vaughn's testimony, evidence of active trafficking at TSH Logistics. We need a warrant, Captain, now. We need to raid that hub before they move those people. Wallace listens, face unreadable. When he finishes, she leans back. Silence stretches. Heavy, oppressive. Kalen, we cannot act based on this. What do you mean? The witness is compromised. Vaughn Griffin is emotionally involved, biased. His testimony is unreliable. He was trespassing. He witnessed human trafficking. Allegedly, we have no corroborating evidence, no photos, no videos, just the word of a grieving grandson. And the threat, Kalen points to Cap, is that alleged too? Circumstantial. We have no proof the Mercer organization is behind it. Kalen stares at her, stunned by obstruction. Same pattern as 1939, same denial, same protection of the powerful. Captain, Kalen says, voice low and dangerous, are you protecting them? Wallace's eyes flash. Be very careful what you say, detective. You're out of line. She orders him to cease any investigation into Mercer Group and TSH Logistics. If you disobey direct order, I will suspend you. Kalen leaves, mind reeling, bureaucratic wall impenetrable. Wallace is either being pressured or actively compromised. He's isolated, can't trust his own department. If he wants to stop the trafficking, he has to go rogue. He needs leverage. Inside information, a weak link. He identifies Xander Yates, truck driver with TSH, 5 years with company, severe financial troubles, gambling addiction, history of disciplinary issues, vulnerable, desperate. Kalen finds him at Rundown Bar, approaches discreetly in dimly lit alley behind bar. Xander Yates steps from shadows, shows badge. Yates turns, startled, eyes widening in fear. I'm Detective Paxton. I need to talk to you. I don't know nothing. I ain't done nothing wrong. I'm not here about your debt, Xander. I'm here about TSH Logistics, about the special shipments. Yates freezes. I don't know what you're talking about. Kalen presses. I know about the 1939 murders. The 30 men buried in barrels. I know what this organization is capable of. They don't care about you. You're disposable. If they think you're a liability, they will eliminate you. Yates breaks down. Fear, desperation, weight of secret. Too much. He confesses. Admits knowing about special shipments. Doesn't know what cargo is, he claims, but knows it's illegal and dangerous. They're handled off the books, high security. We get paid extra in cash. Shipments overseen by Jonah Tate, head of security for TSH Logistics, known for brutality and loyalty to Mercer Group. Tate is a monster. He runs the operation. I need your help, Xander. I need the schedule for the next special shipment. Yates hesitates. Fear of retaliation warring with hope of escape. Kalen offers protection, confidentiality, relocation. Yates agrees. Next special shipment scheduled for following night. He provides details, protocol, location of secluded loading bay, timing. Kalen leaves, information burning in his mind. He has the key. The opportunity to expose the organization. But the risks are enormous. He's operating outside the law, without backup, without authorization. If he fails, he'll be destroyed. He calls Vaughn. I have the schedule. The next shipment is tomorrow night. What's the plan? We infiltrate the TSH hub during the shipment. We obtain video evidence, irrefutable proof. We cannot rescue the victims ourselves. Too dangerous. But we ensure their rescue by exposing the truth. I'm in. Whatever it takes. They meet at abandoned warehouse. Spend day preparing, planning. Kalen studies layout, blueprints, security protocols, blind spots. They gather equipment, night vision cameras, bolt cutters, dark clothing, burner phones. As night falls, Kalen feels cold determination. This is point of no return. Desperate gambit that will either expose truth or bury them with it. They move out, disappearing into darkness, heading toward TSH Logistics Hub. The fate of victims, legacy of their grandfathers, rests on their shoulders. TSH Logistics Hub sprawls across acres of industrial waterfront, fortress of concrete and steel, illuminated by harsh floodlights, air hums with idling trucks, metallic clang of containers. Kalen and Vaughn approach perimeter fence from rear, side-facing murky river waters. Darkness provides cover. Security patrols frequent. Now, Kalen whispers, as security vehicle passes. They move quickly. Kalen uses bolt cutters on chain link, sound masked by passing truck. They slip through, disappear into shadows. They're inside. They navigate maze of complex, dodging patrols, avoiding cameras, using shipping containers as cover. Tension agonizing. Every shadow a threat, every sound amplified. They reach main warehouse, massive structure housing internal loading bays. They slip through unlocked side door, interior vast, cavernous. Rows of towering shelves stacked with cargo, air thick with exhaust smell. They find secluded loading bay at far end, quiet, dimly lit, waiting. Kalen spots metal catwalk suspended above bay, used for maintenance. They climb narrow stairs, reach catwalk, crouch low, concealed by metal grating and shadows, clear view of bay below. They wait, minutes stretching into eternity, silence heavy, oppressive. Then they hear it, engine approaching. Jonah Tate emerges from shadows, clipboard in hand, large, muscular, scarred face, cold eyes, accompanied by armed men. Atmosphere shifts, air crackling with tension. Large unmarked truck backs into bay, doors sealed, cargo hidden. Dark windowless van arrives, pulls up to loading bay. Doors slide open. Kalen focuses night vision camera. Greenish glow, illuminating scene. He watches, breath, catching as horrific confirmation unfolds. Several young women forced from van, hands bound, mouths gagged, terrified, eyes wide with fear, bodies trembling. Scene brutal, efficient, devoid of humanity. Tate oversees with cold detachment, men handling women like cargo, pushing them toward truck. Kalen feels wave of nausea. This is reality of human trafficking, exploitation, violence, dehumanization. This is exactly what his grandfather witnessed 65 years ago. The organization's cruelty hasn't changed. Vaughn trembles beside him, face contorted in rage and grief, watching echo of past, continuation of tragedy that shattered his family. They watch as women are forced into concealed compartment within truck. Hidden space designed to smuggle human cargo. Modern-day version of barrels. Truck doors being sealed. Kalen has evidence, irrefutable proof. Then it happens. Vaughn shifts weight, trying for better angle. Foot slips on metal grating. Piece of loose metal groans loudly, clatters on concrete below. Sound echoes like gunshot. Tate and men look up, eyes snapping toward catwalk. They see movement. Shadows. "They're up there!" Tate shouts. "Get them!" Warehouse erupts into chaos. Gunshots from below. Bullets ricocheting off metal catwalk. Sparks flying in darkness. Kalen and Vaughn scramble, hearts hammering. They're exposed, trapped. They have evidence. Now they have to survive. "Move!" Kalen shouts, pushing Vaughn forward. They flee across narrow platform. Metal grating vibrating beneath feet. Reach end of catwalk. Stairs leading down blocked by Tate's men. Trapped. Kalen scans area. Tactical training kicking in. Needs diversion. Sees transformer box on wall near loading bay. Raises weapon. Fires. Bullet hits box. Sparks erupting. Warehouse plunges into darkness. Sudden silence broken by shouts of confusion. Emergency lights kick in, bathing space in eerie red glow. "This way." Kalen grabs Vaughn's arm. They scramble down maintenance ladder, dropping to warehouse floor. Now in maze of warehouse, towering shelves offering cover. Chase is on. Tense cat and mouse through darkness. Red light casting long shadows. Footsteps echoing. Kalen moves stealthily. Creates diversions. Knocking over cargo. Activating sprinkler system. Water raining down. Adding to chaos. Close to exit. But Tate is waiting. Emerges from shadows. Face illuminated by red light. Eyes burning with rage. Raises weapon. End of the line, detective. Kalen pushes Vaughn behind crates. "It's over, Tate. We have the evidence. Whole operation on camera." Tate laughs, cold, humorless. "You think that matters? We own this city." He lunges, attacking with brutal force, fight desperate, visceral. Tate is monster, fueled by rage, fights dirty, using size and strength to overpower Kalen. They crash into shelves, cargo raining down. Kalen loses weapon, gun skittering across concrete. Tate pins him down, hands wrapped around throat, squeezing. Kalen struggles, vision blurring. Darkness closing in. Suddenly Vaughn emerges, metal pipe in hand, swings with all strength, hits Tate in back of head. Tate roars in pain, releases grip, stumbles back, dazed. Kalen gasps for air, scrambles to feet, grabs weapon, aims at Tate. Sound of sirens in distance. They have to get out. Kalen and Vaughn run toward exit, burst through door into cold night air. Escape into industrial district, disappearing into city streets as police cars arrive. They got away, with cameras, with evidence, with their lives. They don't stop running until miles away, adrenaline slowly receding, leaving trembling exhaustion. They survived. They have evidence. But war is far from over. Kalen can't go back to precinct. Wallace is compromised. Evidence would be buried. They would disappear, just like 30 men in 1939. He needs to bypass corrupted chain of command, take evidence to someone he trusts, someone outside Mercer Group's influence. He calls Agent Marcus Thorne, FBI, Organized Crime Division, man Kalen worked with, man whose integrity is beyond reproach. "Marcus, it's Kalen Paxton. I need your help." "Kalen, what's going on? You sound like hell." "I have evidence. Irrefutable proof of major human trafficking operation connected to Mercer Group and corruption within NYPD. Silence heavy. Thorne knows implications. Where are you? Thorne gives address. Safe house in Brooklyn. Kaylin drives. City lights blurring past. They arrive. Thorne waiting. Kaylin hands over camera. Presents entire case file. Historical connection. Evidence of Mercer Group's criminal enterprise. Obstruction from Wallace. Thorne reviews evidence. Expression hardening. Watches video. Horrific scene unfolding on screen. He looks at Kaylin. Eyes filled with admiration and disbelief. Kaylin, this is explosive. Bigger than anything we've ever handled. Mercer Group. NYPD corruption. Historical murders. It's a powder keg. I know. They've been operating with impunity for 65 years. Not anymore, Thorne promises. Voice resolute. We take it from here. We bring them down. All of them. Kaylin feels wave of relief. Burden lifted. He knows his career might be over, but he also knows he did the right thing. He exposed truth. Honored memory of his grandfather. FBI acts swiftly. Thorne mobilizes team. Coordinates with Department of Justice, secures warrants, plans operation. By morning, storm breaks. News channels reporting major law enforcement operation unfolding across city. Raid on major logistics company. Arrests made. Victims rescued. The reckoning has begun. Pre-dawn air crisp. Silence broken by distant wail of sirens. Agent Thorne stands at command post. Large-scale multi-agency raid. Coordinated strike against heart of Mercer organization. FBI, Homeland Security, Department of Justice, NYPD excluded. Corruption runs too deep. All teams in position, radio crackles. Execute, Thorne orders. Operation begins. Simultaneously at multiple locations. At TSH Hub, FBI tactical team breaches perimeter. Movement swift, precise. Secure warehouse. Overwhelm personnel. Truck containing victims intercepted before leaving state. Hidden compartment opened. Women rescued. Faces pale with fear, but alive. Jonah Tate arrested at scene. Defiant. Evidence overwhelming. Led away in handcuffs. Reign of terror over. At Mercer Group headquarters in Midtown, agents raid corporate offices, seize financial records, communication data, servers, find evidence linking modern operation to historical roots, decades of illicit profits, web of corruption. At Roman Mercer's penthouse, arrest team breaches door. Find Mercer in study, seemingly unperturbed, arrogance staggering, arrested, political influence unable to stop federal intervention, led away, face mask of disbelief and rage, untouchable finally brought to justice. At NYPD precinct, internal affairs arrives. Captain Wallace suspended. Career over. Complicity exposed. Silence that protected organization for decades finally broken. Thorne watches sunrise over city. Grim satisfaction. Operation success. Victims safe. Monsters in custody. Thanks to courage of one detective, truth finally brought to light. Weeks turn into months. Aftermath of raids, whirlwind of legal proceedings, media frenzy, internal investigations. Kaylin placed on administrative leave pending review. Thorne keeps promise. Protects Kaylin. Presents him as whistleblower, review board, faced with undeniable evidence of corruption and success of operation, clears Kaylin. Badge restored. Site of parking garage in Queens consecrated. Demolition halted. Area transformed into permanent memorial for 30 men buried there. Forensic investigation confirms Bernard Paxton's remains among those found. Confirmation brings bittersweet closure to Kaylin's family. Kaylin stands at memorial. Names of 30 men etched deep into black granite. He finds his grandfather's name with his fingertips. Bernard Paxton. Stone is cold. Permanent in a way the man himself never got to be. Vaughn pushes Otis Griffin's wheelchair across gravel path. Elderly man struggles to stand when they reach monument. Needs to touch his father's name. Silas Griffin. carved just 3 names below Bernard. "They're together," Otis says, voice breaking. After all this time, they're still together. 3 men stand in silence, 3 generations bound by tragedy that shaped their families before any of them were born. For first time in 65 years, weight of not knowing has lifted. Otis places hand on Kalen's shoulder, eyes filled with tears, but also peace. "You found him, detective. You brought him home. You gave us back our history." "I'm sorry it took so long," Kalen says, voice thick with emotion. "It doesn't matter," Otis says. "What matters is truth is finally out. Those monsters are finally paying for their crimes." For first time in his life, he feels peace. Wound that festered for 65 years, finally beginning to heal. Vaughn looks at Kalen, newfound respect in eyes. "You did it, Kalen. You broke the cycle. You ended their reign of terror." Kalen looks at Memorial, feels deep connection to his grandfather, shared purpose. Bernard fought for justice in 1939. Now, 65 years later, his grandson finished the fight. Investigation changed Kalen, tested his limits, forced him to confront darkness beneath surface of city, but he also saw best of humanity, courage, determination, resilience. It gave him renewed sense of purpose, realization that uncovering truth, no matter how long buried, gives meaning to his work. Long arc of justice finally bent toward light, ghosts of past laid to rest, their voices finally heard. Trials of Roman Mercer and Jonah Tate are high profile, media spectacle exposing full scope of Mercer Organization's history, courtroom packed every day, testimonies revealing sordid details of trafficking operation. Prosecution presents devastating case, rescued victims bravely recount horrific experiences. Xander Yates, under witness protection, testifies against organization, provides crucial insider information. Kalen testifies. His testimony crucial in linking 1939 murders to organization's motive of silencing witnesses. Presents evidence he gathered. Historical connection. Detective Ali's notes. Video footage of trafficking operation. Defense tries to discredit him, painting him as rogue detective obsessed with historical vendetta. But truth is undeniable. Verdict: guilty on all counts. Roman Mercer and Jonah Tate receive multiple life sentences, empire collapsing, legacy destroyed, several corrupt officials, including Captain Wallace, indicted for obstruction and conspiracy. Systemic corruption that protected organization for decades exposed. Kalen returns to duty, hailed as hero by some, criticized by others, but he remains same meticulous, driven detective. He returns to desk, familiar surroundings grounding him. He hangs 1939 photograph in his office, faded image, constant reminder of lives lost and justice achieved. Stern faces of 30 men stare back, testament to enduring power of truth. Late one afternoon, Kalen sits at his desk, case files stacked around him. New investigations, new mysteries. The work never stops. But the photograph remains above his desk, those 30 faces watching over him. His phone rings. New case, missing person, elderly woman, family frantic. Kalen grabs his jacket, heads for the door. Before leaving, he glances back at photograph one final time. Bernard Paxton stares back at him, arms crossed, standing tall, the way he must have stood when he witnessed the truth, when he tried to speak up, when he paid the ultimate price. Kalen nods to the photograph. A silent promise. Justice delayed is not justice denied. It's just justice waiting for someone brave enough to fight for it. He walks out into the city, into the noise, into the chaos, into another story waiting to be told. Because some secrets don't stay buried forever. Some voices refuse to be silenced. Some truths are too powerful to remain hidden. And sometimes, across the span of 65 years, A grandson finds his grandfather in the darkness, brings him home, and finishes what he started. The blue banded barrels are gone now, removed, catalogued, evidence processed, but the memorial remains. Black granite reflecting sky. 30 names carved deep. People walk past it every day. Most don't stop, don't read the inscription, don't know the story. But some do. Some pause. Read the names. Wonder about the men who died here, the families who mourned them, the detective who refused to let their deaths be forgotten, and on certain mornings, when light hits the stone just right, you can almost see them. 30 men in work clothes, stern faces, arms crossed, standing together, not smiling. They never smiled, but no longer forgotten, no longer disappeared. Finally, home. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more untold histories every week. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Your city might get a shout out next time. These stories matter. These voices matter. And as long as there are people willing to listen, the truth will always find a way out. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.